Hello, everyone. Welcome to Insider Tips for Elevating Employee Engagement. I'm Leslie Spees with Influence HR Consulting. I'm an HR consultant that helps busy leaders retain, engage, and develop their talent. And I'm very passionate about this topic, passionate about helping organizations create environments that facilitate engagement and well-being. Hopefully, the information in this presentation will be helpful to you in doing just that. So here's what we're going to cover. Employee engagement is and why it's critical, pillars of employee engagement, top insider strategies, how to deal with disengagement. We'll start presentations talking about what the problem is that we're trying to solve. So the problem today is that employee engagement is at an 11-year low. Single disengaged employee costs about 34% of their annual salary. Over half of employees are still looking around for other opportunities. Solution is hopefully in some of the information that I'm going to share with you today that will help you create a work culture where employees will want to thrive and stay. I go through a few definitions with you because they overlap a bit, but they are distinct. Employee retention is an organization's ability to prevent employee turnover, which you want, but there is some turnover that is necessary and good. So I really feel like the ultimate goal is employee engagement. This is a connection that employees have with an organization that makes them want to go above and beyond what's expected of them. And finally, we have culture, which is a related concept. And I feel like the goal is to create a culture of employee engagement where employees can be engaged. That provides kind of the foundation for that. Culture is the sum of what people think, say, and do in an organization. It's not what you want them to think, say, and do. It's what's really happening where the rubber meets the road. Ultimate goal, as I said before, is a culture that facilitates employee engagement. Why is employee engagement so critical? Gallup has a ton of telling statistics, some of which are here. I wanted to share a story to illustrate employee engagement. So you've got three bricklayers that are working side by side, and you come along to the first one and ask him what he's doing. And he says, I'm putting one brick on top of another. You come along to the second employee, ask her what she's doing, and she says, I'm building a wall for a church. You go to the third employee and ask him what he's doing, and he says, I'm building a cathedral which will stand for centuries and inspire people to do good works. So you can see from that example, obviously the third employee is the engaged employee. The second employee is kind of, meh, kind of in the middle. They see a little bit bigger picture than the first employee that's really just counting down until it's quitting time. Obviously can't have a discussion in the recorded version of this presentation, but think about what percent of most workforces you think are engaged and the traits and behaviors of engaged employees, and what percent of most workforces you think are actively disengaged and the traits and behaviors of actively disengaged employees. So since we can't discuss it, I'll go right to the answers. According to Gallup, about 30% of most workforces are engaged. This means that they commit rationally and emotionally to their teamwork and manager. They drive innovation, move the organization forward. They work harder, perform better, stay, and help others. And you've got the actively disengaged, and that's about 17% of most workforces. They are cave dwellers, consistently against virtually everything. Not committed to their team, job, or manager. They're unhappy, and they share that unhappiness with everyone else and undermine what their engaged coworkers accomplish. They can infect up to 7 other people. Then you've got the group in the middle. So they're partially engaged or not engaged, and that's usually about 53% of most workforces. They neither strongly commit or non-commit to the teamwork and manager. Average levels of effort, and they kind of take a wait and see attitude. So if there's a change or something like that, they're not going to jump on board immediately. They're going to sit back and wait to see if it sticks. So you've got your actively disengaged employees that are kind of preying on that middle group, trying to bring them down to their camp. But it's a great opportunity with that 53% really to engage some of those folks and move them up the channel, I guess you'd say, of engagement, which is a segue to my next slide. So engagement is a journey. You start out really with having your basic needs met. And that's foundational. You have to have your basic needs met before you can move on towards engagement. And that's things like you have to get paid, your schedule, having some level of job security, having the tools and resources that you need to do your job. So once your basic needs are met, you move on to what do I contribute? So do you feel like you're contributing something through your work? Are you appreciated by your leader, by your teammates? Next, you move along to do I belong? So do you feel like you can be your authentic self? Are you connecting with others in the organization? Are you connecting with the organization's mission and core values? Then you move along to how can we all grow? So you're focused on your personal growth as well as focused on helping the organization innovate and grow. And then finally, you move on to the pinnacle of engagement. So this is a journey. It's not a straight shot. Like with any journey, there's hills, there's curves. You're going to have setbacks. You have to stop for gas along the way. And with this, you can be at engagement, and there's going to be times when, like I say, you have a setback or there's a change that results in kind of moving back within the engagement journey. Just like engagement is a journey, you could argue that disengagement can be a journey. Some of the things that could lead to disengagement are things like leadership, not feeling listened to, poor onboarding. It could be a major change in the organization, could be a leadership change. There's all sorts of things that can impact engagement for employees. There's 6 pillars of engagement. And these are pillars that you would want to focus on in building your work. First is good managers. And I really feel like this is the closest thing to a silver bullet. And these statistics will sort of, I think, support that. Managers account for 70% of an employee's motivation, the number one reason why people leave, and is critical to an employee's mental health as a partner or spouse, according to a recent study. When you think about the best managers you've had, what behaviors and traits did they exhibit? And then think about the worst managers you've had and the behaviors and traits that they exhibited. Clearly, we can't have a discussion here, but just, jot down some thoughts. So I've written a book on this topic called The 7 Habits of High Retention Managers. There's a QR code. It won't hurt my feelings if you buy a copy. But I did a lot of research. If you do a Google search on traits of great managers, you're going to get like 1 million hits. But, based on reading hundreds of articles, reading books, and also you can see my dog in the background, and also just personal experience, I came up with these 7 habits, which are ignite purpose, build trust, manage yourself, be a good coach, practice accountability, communicate well, and show you care. Invest in your manager, because first of all, a lot of times we tend to promote people that aren't well equipped to be managers into manager roles. And that happens because a lot of times you promote those that are the best individual contributor, best technically, because it seems like the natural next step, but they may not be really well equipped to be a manager. You got to have those leadership and emotional intelligence type attributes in order to be successful. So you want to invest in your managers, provide them with the training and development opportunities that they need. But if they're not successful after you do that, then you need to make some difficult decisions. And I see that across organizations, that a lot of times people that are bad managers just remain in that role, and nothing is done to hold them accountable. So you see, he went bye-bye. All right, so an example of a not so good manager if you've ever watched Office Space. Number 2, focus on purpose. Everybody wants to feel like they're making a difference. I don't feel like there's many people out there that really would enjoy putting widgets on together or whatever without any greater purpose to what they're doing. A clear purpose is going to unite team members around a shared cause, and it helps foster a larger emotional investment in their work. And purpose, if you look at a definition, is really the why behind what your company or what your team does. So you probably have a mission. Hopefully it achieves that. Some companies that I see, their mission is really just what they do. What you want it to be is what you do and why you do it. What is the greater good that comes from what you do? So why purpose matters. Today's employees are motivated by work that gives them a sense of purpose. In purpose-driven organizations, employees are more productive. 73% are engaged, 5 times higher levels of well-being, and they're 3 times more likely to stay. So how do you instill purpose and really ignite it in your employees? You want to regularly reinforce the organization's purpose, which again is what you do and why you do it. If you are a team lead, or maybe you're in HR, you could encourage teams working with employees to articulate a team purpose that goes up to the organization's purpose. And then help employees understand how their job fits in with the greater purpose. And that's typically going to be where the manager comes in. And you'll see a lot of overlap with those 7 habits of managers and the pillars of culture, because managers really are the culture carriers and they have such a big role in an employee's experience. All right, so we've talked about good managers and we have talked about igniting purpose. So we're going to talk about number 3, cultivating a culture of caring. To do this, you can promote empathy, appreciation, holistic well-being, social relationships, and flexibility, work-life blend. I like to just provide a definition of empathy because there's some different ones out there. This is one I like. Putting yourself in the place of another person without judgment or bias and trying to understand his or her situation and point of view. And when I teach about empathy, I share this model, which I came up with and was very proud of myself because I love acronyms. So I thought I would share it. I'm not going to go through it right now. But I will say that a study by the University of Cambridge says that only about 10% of the empathy that we have is based on our genetic makeup. The rest is learned. So empathy is something that can be taught and people can get better at it. Encourage appreciation. Appreciation means that you feel recognized, valued, and appreciated for the effort that you put into your job. It matters because 81% of employees say they'll work harder if they feel appreciated. 53% will stay longer. And it's the number 1 key driver of employee engagement, according to the Great Place to Work Institute. I like to share the PATS model when it comes to recognition. So first is tapping into others' preferences. So you have some that may love being recognized in a public forum and some that would be mortified. Also, if you're giving a gift card or something like that, you want to tap into what an employee likes. So if you have somebody that's a vegetarian, you haven't really paid attention to that in the past, and you give them a gift card for a steakhouse or something like that, they're probably not going to feel like you really appreciate them. You want it to be personalized and to be meaningful to that person. You want it to be authentic. So I worked for a leader in the past that would walk around saying, great job, fantastic all the time. And he did exude some positive energy, but you never really felt like it was very authentic and you didn't really know what he thought was great. You want it to be timely. So with that, you want it to be close to whatever the thing is that you are recognizing. And you want it to be specific. So it's much more meaningful if you share specifics. And then if you do that, people know what behavior to repeat in the future. Other ways to create a culture of caring, provide opportunities for team members to develop positive social relationships with coworkers. I don't mean operate like Match.com. I mean just friendly relationships to get to know each other a little bit outside of just the work stuff. Well-being initiatives offer company initiatives, benefits, and programs around holistic well-being, and remind people that those are there and available to them, because they will forget if it's not, kept front and center. And work-life blend. And I use that term rather than work-life balance, because really you'll never balance work and life. It's always a blend or an integration. So allow some flexibility, offer options to assist employees in blending their work and life. Not everybody can work remote or hybrid depending on their job, but just be flexible where you can. And if you do have the possibility of people doing some remote and hybrid work, I would encourage considering that, because it has been shown to really impact retention. Number 4, offer opportunities for growth and development. Employees who feel they have opportunities to grow and develop are 3 times more likely to stay. Number 1 thing you can do to this end is transition your bosses to coaches. Today's employees don't want managers, they want coaches. So when you look at the younger generations, it's even more important to them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by coaches, but I wanted to say that I am a little salty with the Ted Lasso guy, because at the recent SHRM conference, he canceled out, called in sick, and then was spotted at the WNBA tournament. There may be more to that story, and I didn't even go to the conference, but HR people were a little bit up in arms about that. All right, so develop managers in these areas. Feedback, giving frequent and meaningful positive and giving developmental feedback in a motivational way. Coaching, so less fixing and giving advice and more guiding others towards their own solutions. Knowing and capitalizing on employee strengths and helping employees with career growth. And here are some things to that end that you can offer in your culture. Doesn't have to be real expensive. I mean, there's things that you can do: job shadowing, stretch assignments, career paths are not that hard to put together. LinkedIn Learning is a great tool if you don't have learning and development staff or can't afford an outside person to facilitate. Number 5, provide clarity and accountability. Goals, expectations, and communication should be clear. And everyone should be accountable for commitments and results. I like this quote by Stephen Covey: accountability breeds responsibility. If you don't have accountability, you're not likely to get the response that you want. I teach 5 C's of accountability. The first is clarity. So you got to have clear expectations so that people know what they're being held accountable to. Got to have courage, because with accountability, sometimes you have to have difficult conversations, and that takes some courage. Collaboration, so wherever you can, collaborating with employees and others on goals and objectives. Consistency, so that is being fair and consistent and having accountability conversations, holding employees accountable, and also being consistent in meeting and having two-way feedback conversations. And then correction. So sometimes you have to move to correction as it relates to accountability if things don't get better with the other 4 C's. Peer-to-peer accountability is also very important. So you should develop and coach employees to address issues directly. So if Susie comes to you because Tim keeps heating up his stinky salmon at lunch, and she wants you to address it if you're the manager or HR person, coaching employees to actually talk to the other person. Maybe even providing them with some training on how to have those difficult conversations can be helpful. Develop and reinforce core values and share examples of core values in action. They're a great tool for accountability. And having teams establish ground rules on how they will interact. And I won't talk much about that now because I'm going to share about it later. Some other tips: don't tolerate bad behavior, have a no a-hole rule, and hold leaders accountable for holding people accountable. All right, the sixth pillar is hearing the voice of the employee. Regularly ask for employee input and let them know that their opinions matter. When they speak, listen and use their input where you can. Try to facilitate everyone speaking up. Sorry, my little animations were out of order, because you know that there are those employees that speak up too much, and then there's some that really don't speak up at all. So if you are in a leadership position or you're facilitating a meeting or whatever it is, trying to let everyone's voice be heard. Some forums for hearing the voice of the employee: stay interviews. We'll talk more about that. Exit interviews, surveys, focus groups, listening sessions, and one-on-ones. All right, so clearly it depends on your culture and feedback that you get on, areas that are strong and areas that could be improved. But here are 5 strategies that I've seen work well across many organizations, so I thought I would share them. And we'll go through each. And this QR code will take you to some free resources that relate to these on my website. All right, first is Culture Catalyst solution. And this is a solution that I offer. You don't have to use this, but doing something similar, because really the first step is finding out kind of where you are, getting a baseline, and what are the pain points within the culture, and then what's going well that we need to continue doing is important. So with this solution, you do a strategic assessment of all the areas of the employee experience and culture, and you want to get employee feedback on what's going well and what are their pain points. You can do that through a survey. You can do that through focus groups, stay interviews, however you do it. Survey is probably the best way. I have seen some clients lately kind of do their own surveys because there are survey tools out there. I wouldn't recommend that, just because I know that even as an outside facilitator doing those, people always feel like you're going to know what they said. So I would use an external party. And if you want to talk to me about doing it, let me know. Second step is analyze. So analyze and compile your data from the assessment and the employee feedback, and then use that information to create and implement an action plan, and make sure that you include regular communication and that you're promoting your improvements. So as you develop your action items, as you implement those, tie it back to the survey so employees will know that you heard their feedback. Transition your bosses to coaches. I already mentioned that. Gallup says that it's the #1 thing that senior leaders should do to improve employee engagement. So you want to develop your managers to be better coaches and insert coaching conversations into your culture. Conduct stay interviews and improve one-on-ones. Stay interviews are kind of like an exit interview, but you do it while the employee is still with you. And I actually have a resource on my website that kind of is a guide for implementing stay interviews that I would recommend that you look at. But you can conduct stay interviews to get a pulse on how employees are feeling and take action while they're still employed, whereas with exit interviews, they've already made their decision to leave. And then one-on-one meetings. So that's where the manager, you may call them one-on-ones, you may call them something else, but where the manager meets with employees. Hopefully they do that with some frequency. Those generally, from my experience, are not that effective because a lot of times it's just kind of the manager says, well, what's going on? Update me. And then that's kind of it. And it can really be used as an engagement tool and an opportunity for some two-way feedback. So I recommend you train your managers on how to make the most of one-on-ones and maybe even give them a little agenda. Encourage thank you notes. So I just, in general, encourage appreciation because I think there's never been an organization that I've worked with that feels like there's enough of it. But I think thank you notes are an inexpensive, very meaningful way to show appreciation. And I've noticed as I've been out and about in different office spaces, doctor's office, things like that, a lot of times I will see thank you notes tacked up in an office or cubicle. And I know that, over the years, I've kept thank you notes. I actually found one the other day from about 20 years ago. Implement team guidelines. What is that? It involves the team developing norms on how they will behave, communicate, and hold one another accountable. Also a tool on my website to help you do this. Once you create those team guidelines, you need to reinforce them regularly or it's not going to have been a meaningful activity. And even do a check-in with the team to say, are we meeting our obligations that we set forth in our team guidelines? Okay, so we have talked about engagement, the definition. We've talked about the pillars that you want to build into your work culture, and we've talked about some insider strategies for elevating engagement. So what do you do about disengaged employees? Actively disengaged employees, which are part of that 17%, need to be moved up or out. And of course, you want to work on that middle group as well. But the actively disengaged employees are going to impede progress and create probably a toxic work environment. As I said, they can infect up to 7 other employees. So 3 steps to address disengagement. Conduct a stay interview, act on their feedback where it's reasonable and where you can, set clear expectations and provide opportunities for regular feedback. If there's no movement, start your company's disciplinary action process and make sure that you're documenting and staying on top of the accountability process. And here is the end result. And here is my contact information. If you have any questions or I can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out. I also have a QR code here that will link you to a best practices handout that may be helpful to you. Thanks so much for listening, and please reach out if I can help you. Thank you. Bye.